The United States has officially changed course on Ukraine. The Trump administration, no longer willing to support Kyiv, is negotiating directly with Russia. In a private meeting held in Saudi Arabia, U.S. officials discussed ending the war without Ukraine or Europe at the table. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, and Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff met with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and Kremlin advisor Yuri Ushakov. The talks lasted over 4 hours, and both sides agreed to explore a negotiated settlement, one that heavily favors Moscow. Russia now controls about 20% of Ukraine, nearly 3 years after launching its invasion. Moscow claims Ukraine's NATO ambitions threatened its security. Kyiv and Western leaders reject that argument, calling it a blatant land grab. Despite Ukraine's pleas for continued support, the Trump administration has made its position clear. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth dismissed Ukraine's military objectives as unrealistic. Washington now expects Kyiv to accept territorial losses and drop its NATO aspirations. European allies reacted with alarm. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky condemned the meeting, saying Ukraine had been shut out of discussions that will decide its future. Germany and other European nations also voiced concerns that the U.S. is shifting away from its commitments. Meanwhile, Russia's delegation celebrated the meeting's outcome. Officials highlighted the potential return of American businesses to Russia, suggesting economic incentives could play a role in negotiations. Some experts believe Trump may consider lifting sanctions on Moscow as part of a broader deal. At the same time, the administration has redirected its attention toward China. Officials insist that European security is no longer a primary focus, urging NATO countries to take responsibility for their own defense. For Ukraine, the consequences are clear. Without U.S. military aid, its ability to resist Russian advances will weaken. The Trump administration, prioritizing its new foreign policy approach, appears ready to accept an outcome that cements Moscow's gains.